let's see, it's not October, so we can't do horror. Although we did do Halloween last week, so maybe we do favorite horror. What's your favorite horror movie?
Oh, okay. This is gonna be tough because
I got to think about it myself.
I'm not a huge horror fan in the first place, but like,
well, what's your favorite genre?
My favorite genre is probably sci-fi.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, me too. So, favorite sci-fi movie.
But I mean, you could lump sci-fi and horror together, and I could say Alien.
Yeah.
Because I really like that movie, and that's kind of both.
Yep. I agree with you. I love Ridley Scott's Alien. And it is a horror movie. It's like a slow, suspenseful horror, horror sci-fi. And he kind of defined that whole genre. Like, every grim, dark horror sci-fi that came after Alien, like, they have to admit that they were influenced by Alien.
Yeah. No lie there. Yeah. But I mean, it's like always a runner up, or not a runner up, but like there's always two that I really, really like, and I can't ever decide, and that's like Alien and Jurassic Park, the original. Yeah. Like, I don't know why that sounds so weird. But like, well, I was big into dinosaurs when I was a kid, so like Jurassic Park was my movie. I've seen it probably like 100 times or more.
Yeah.
No lie. And it's kind of a horror movie-ish, like slight, you know, especially when you're like 10 years old and you're watching the kids in the
book. Well, it's suspenseful. Yeah.
And the book was suspenseful. Yeah. The book is good.
Yeah. I don't know what my favorite is. I really have a hard time picking a favorite, but I love sci-fi genre. That is my favorite genre for sure.
Definitely.
I just looked up a list. I'm cheating a little bit.
That's okay.
Have you ever seen the movie Moon?
No, I don't think so.
It's a really good movie. That's an obscure one. It's funny thing is, it has a gaming related connection because the director of Moon, who I'm trying my best to remember his name before I get to the end of this sentence, and I was not successful. Let me find out what his name is.
Hey, I'm horrible with directors. I don't even know actors' names. Like, I'll just refer to them as their characters in the movie.
He's like David Bowie's son, Duncan Jones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Duncan Jones. His name, I think his name is really Zoe Bowie. But he goes by Duncan Jones. He also did the Warcraft movie. So he's kind of most famous for doing Moon, and then he did the movie Source Code. Have you ever seen the movie Source Code?
Oh, yep.
The guy's like on the train, and he keeps having to relive the same moment over and over again.
Yep.
So both of those movies were these kind of like small cast, small set. Moon is like one guy in one room. Like, it's like such a small set, small cast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then they said, oh, this guy should make the Warcraft movie, which is like about like an entire like nations of people, large sets, like large epic story, you know, like,
oh man, that's funny.
So he was really out of his element to do the Warcraft movie, but I really like Moon a lot. It's a really good movie, and Source Code is good, but it's not as good as Moon. And
I'll have to check out Moon, because I don't think I've ever seen that one.
He was like a big Warcraft fan too. So like, I think everybody was like really hopeful that he was going to do a really good job, because he was like such a fan. But as we all know, it's kind of a flop, that movie.
Yeah. Usually that goes well, but not in that case.
I think it's underrated though. I think the Warcraft movie is better than people give it credit for. Yeah.
Well, I personally can't say I've never seen it, but I'm just judging by what the critics say.
Yeah. It's certainly not a great movie, but I think people act like it's horrible. There's definitely, as far as video game movies go, it's actually pretty good, because there's some really bad video game movies.
There are some really bad ones.
Welcome to Crowbar Colonel Panic, episode 23. We're not live streaming. We're trying something new this week. We're going to try to do a YouTube premiere. You can send us an email at crowbarkernelpanic@pm.me, and you can join us on Discord. We hang out at the Linux Mint Discord in the Linux gaming section. This week is all about Steam Deck. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Steam Deck. Every question you had,
wanted to know and didn't want to know.
Right. No, I don't know that I'll really have like all that much information that I can like put out there that hasn't already been said in like a bunch of other videos. But
yeah, well, originally this video was supposed to happen like what, 2 weeks ago now, or a week and a half ago, and things just didn't work out.
I ended up getting sick from Thursday to Tuesday. It was like the longest I've been sick post getting. I got COVID during COVID, but like other than COVID, that's the longest I've ever been sick. And I feel like it's the first time I've gotten sick. Like I got a sinus infection like during the lockdowns, but other than that, I think that I didn't get any viral infections. This is like the first virus I've gotten since COVID started, and I think it's because everybody was wearing masks, you know. Although everybody's like free of their masks now. It's so weird. It's like as fast as it all came on, it all disappeared. At least around here. I don't know how it is in other states, but
that's exactly how it is up here. I mean, it's just like, what's that? COVID? Huh?
Yeah, in South Carolina, everybody has forgotten about COVID. It does not exist anymore.
You'll see like a mask here, mask there around here, but generally nothing.
Yeah, I saw a couple with one today at the car wash, and they were outside. And so it was like doubly kind of odd because even during COVID, most people didn't wear them outside, you know?
Right.
But yeah,
they're the real paranoid ones.
Yeah. Well, for all we know, they have the flu or something, and they're just trying to keep us from getting what they got, which is kind of, I think that's the takeaway. I think if anything comes from this, just if you're sick and you're in public, just wear a mask. I think we just need to adopt that as like a social norm, because I think the reason I seriously have not gotten a virus until recently, and it's probably because people quit wearing masks.
Yeah,
they gave me a virus again.
It could be, definitely.
But anyway, so this is kind of late coming. I've had this thing now for almost a month, I guess, at least 2 weeks. And to be honest with you, I haven't like. I guess we should do the Steam Deck stuff maybe first, and then we can touch on the news during that or after. I don't know. We'll just let this flow however it goes. But I got the Steam Deck. I was like anticipating it. I was super like just anxious, waiting on it. I was ready to get it, and then it came in, and I recorded some unboxing video. And I haven't actually posted that yet. So
I was gonna say I didn't see it. I want to watch that.
I kind of forgot about it to this moment. I'll put it here in the podcast. But the packaging is kind of it's just in a box, and then inside the box is the like bag that it comes in, which it comes with like a really nice bag. But that's basically how they ship it to you. They just put it in that bag. And I opened it up. Got logged in. You just like it launches right up to Steam. You log into like your Steam account, and then I bought the most basic model, which we had all said I was gonna have to use SD cards. I knew I was buying the smallest one,
right? Yeah.
But I guess I didn't really like picture how dramatic it is. Like literally, the only thing I could play on the Steam Deck was the game that they made for the Steam Deck, which is called the Aperture Desk Job. That's like literally the only thing I could play on there.
No ESO on that, baby.
No, you're not getting ESO on there, not at all.
I want you to try. See what happens. Thing just crashes.
I installed it on the SD card.
Right. Oh no. Yeah. That I'm not saying. I'm talking
after
about
the OS.
internal.
So they do the whole thing where like after it gets like 65 gigs or 64 gigs or whatever it is. But after the OS, you have like 25 gigs. Like I could literally only put like 1 or 2 games, and I would have to install something and then remove it to play something else. I'd have to remove it and install something else.
Those days, I hated those days. I remember those days.
But this game, let's see. I'll try to open some of the games as we talk about them. Desk Job. This is designed basically to give you a tour of the. See, I'm trying to launch it while I'm also still running Elder Scrolls in the background. I'm gonna launch it anyway.
Okay,
so right now,
try it.
yeah, right now it's gonna run Aperture Desk Job and Elder Scrolls also in the background at the same time. So,
all right, Steam Deck.
This is a true test of the Steam Deck.
Steam Deck's sweating right now.
But this is a game. It's set in the Aperture Science Center. So if you've played any of the Portal games, you recognize the setting. But essentially, you're an employee of this company, and you're like a tester, and you have a desk. And the desk is essentially like a Steam Deck. It has like all the buttons that you see on the Steam Deck, and they light up as you're supposed to press them in order to test whatever it is that you're testing. And your test subjects come to you like on this conveyor, and you're testing toilets. So it's a game where you're basically testing toilets. So I was gonna make a joke and I forgot it. I was gonna say that the Aperture Desk Job is essentially Half-Life 3. I don't know if people realize that Half-Life 3 has been released under the name Aperture Desk Job. But no, it's literally a game where you're testing toilets, but then then it starts getting wacky. The toilets have machine guns.
They become sentient. They're trying to kill you.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, that's the only thing I could play when I first got it because I couldn't fit anything else on the SD card. So I ordered a 256 gig SD card. I'm gonna order some more. I can't decide if I want to order like one really big one and just kind of treat that as like the master drive, or if I kind of want to do like an SD card. Kind of have like a game system, like a Game Boy, where I can just put in the SD card I want.
That's kind of awesome to think about. Like I didn't think about that originally, and then when someone mentioned that, I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be so freaking cool. Just like buy like a 100 gig SD card for each game, whatever, depending on what some of the requirements are.
Some games these days are over 100 gigs. Like Baldur's Gate 3 is 150 gigs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I picked up the 256, although all I have installed on here right now. So here's my Aperture Desk came up. So they want me to hit these buttons. So that's kind of the way that game works. I have Elder Scrolls installed, which takes a lot of space, and I want to talk about it too because it falls into the category of a game that is not Steam Deck verified.
Verified,
yeah, not Steam Deck verified. So anyway, I broke it down into a few categories. I have the like look and feel. Sort of the physical stuff, how long the battery lasts, fan noise, that kind of thing. And then I want to talk about the Steam Deck as a handheld gaming device, as well as the Steam Deck as a desktop device, if you were to use it as a desktop device.
Right.
So look and feel, I like the way it feels. It is kind of like, I knew it was made of plastic from the reviews I saw, but it's kind of plastic feeling. But it has weight to it. Like it feels significant whenever you're holding it. But just like the seams, like where the plastic meets together, I don't want to say it feels cheap. That seems extreme, but it doesn't feel as extravagant as I thought it would. But
feels like a first try.
Yeah.
That's what I've gotten a lot of. From the vibe from people.
Yeah. All the buttons and stuff feel good. The touchpad, all that stuff feels solid. It's just like literally just sort of like the top casing meeting the bottom casing is like the only thing I don't like the way it feels.
Now, what about the bumpers, R3 or whatever it is? Those little bumpers with your middle finger and all that. Do they feel okay? Are they like squishy? Are they?
Yeah, it feels a little weird to reach the very top one. So the trigger is good. It's got like a trigger style and then like a shoulder style. The shoulder style is a little bit of a reach. Like if you look at my finger there, like I'm kind of doing like a
I see that.
A little bit of a stretch. But it's okay because those are like your in most games, those are the buttons that you want to rarely use. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to mistakenly use a flashbang.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of what those are used for.
Are you a person that uses all 4 of your fingers on the triggers and the bumpers, or do you just use 2 fingers on all 4 of them?
I hold it
So
just
you
like
just use
this.
2 fingers on all 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's buttons right here too. They're hard to see. So far,
Yep. Those ones I was asking about before with how like squishy they are. Like, are they like?
oh no, they feel.
Can you tell you're clicking them?
Yeah. They're hard.
Okay.
They're harder to click than the others. You couldn't. Well, you could, but I think it would be hard to mistakenly click them. But so far, I haven't had a game that's actually used that.
Right. Yeah, that's going to come in time once more games are released specifically for it.
The SD card slot is on the bottom there. So it's that little slot there on the very bottom. Right. But yeah, so I don't know. Overall, I like it. It's not like the most significant feeling thing I've ever felt, but it also doesn't feel like flimsy. The battery life, I haven't been doing these like 8-hour sessions playing games on it or anything like that. I kind of use it like, whenever we're watching some Disney movie with my kid on TV, and
you're zoning out.
I'm zoning out, and then I pull it out and use it for maybe an hour, maybe not even an hour. So I'm not like getting like long, but from what I've seen, like from my experience, plus what I've seen other reviewers talk about, it seems like it has like okay battery life. Like it's not the best ever, but it's also not the worst ever. And none of these games were like designed to be performed on a handheld gaming device, and so
except for Aperture Desktop.
Yeah, exactly. You might could play 16 hours of Aperture Desktop. I don't know, but yeah, it just seems like average. Like I don't think it's above average, but I think people were kind of expecting it to be terrible, and it's certainly not bad. I think it's average battery life. The fan noise, fan is always kicked on at least for me. The fan, every time I play a game, within moments the fan will kick in, and it's not quiet. It's not loud, but it's not quiet. It goes back to, it's kind of like the battery thing. Like it's not the best ever. It's not the worst ever. There's a way
to adjust it, right? The fan curve?
Yeah. So, there's a way to adjust like all the kind of power consumption settings,
right?
Which I accidentally turned the thing off and turn it back on. So, you can adjust the power settings for like if you want to be playing for like a really long time, then you can sacrifice some of the performance by there's like a little scale, and you can move the scale. Mine has been set to whatever it was set on when they sent it to me. I haven't changed it.
What most people are probably going to do, they're probably just not even going to go in there and mess with it. They're probably just going to leave it at the default settings.
Yeah, I mean it's in a pretty prominent place. So, I mean, it's not like hidden from you, but
figure it out. That's good.
Let's see. So I said it's in a prominent place, and now I can't remember where it's at.
Where'd it go? Update moved it. I hate that.
It may have. No, it's like it's over here on the right somehow, but you change it. Ah, here it is. Yeah, you just click on the little battery, and then it pops up, and it's just got like a dial there.
Yeah, a little slider there. Yeah, that's nice.
That's actually the performance overlay, which means it shows you on the top left. It shows you your FPS and your different performance.
Yeah, that's
metrics.
right. It uses the Mango HUD application.
Yes.
That's really nice. I love that. That I use that all the time.
Yes, it does. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the boring stuff out of the way.
I thought it was exciting.
But the Steam Deck as a handheld. So what do you want to hear about first? As a desktop or as a handheld?
Do it as a handheld, because I want to know what that is first. I want to kind of get my baseline down, and then I want to know what it is like a desktop replacement kind of.
So as a handheld, so anything that is Steam Deck verified is going to run great. It's going to be just like you're using a Switch type device. Like these games were designed for this device. That is your ecosystem. So like if you were to buy any handheld gaming system or any gaming system in general, any console that exists, typically you're bound to their ecosystem. Like there was a time period where you could not get a Square Enix game on an Xbox. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there was a time period where you had to pick a side, and if you're
or have both if you're
right,
rich.
or you got to have both. Yeah, and this device, if you kind of imagine it in that way, then anything that is Steam Deck verified, which is a pretty decent, as far as something that just got released, it's a huge catalog of games. But like those games will work without any hiccup. You will see perfect performance.
Right.
And you can they're prominently displayed in the Steam application. Steam is smart enough to know that you're on a Steam Deck, so it makes those games prominent, and they have like a little green checkbox saying that they're the ones you could go for.
Right.
And it's a pretty wide library. One that I've been playing, and this is what I've gotten the most fun out of using the Steam Deck for, and this was actually recommended by a listener a while back whenever I was talking about I forget what game I was talking about. I was talking about the zombie
oh yeah,
like love letter to 90s horror game. I can't remember what it was called, but someone said I should try out this game Blue Fire, and so I installed that on the Steam Deck, and it's the perfect Steam Deck game. It's Steam Deck verified.
Everything.
Yeah,
that's nice.
And it's a perfect controller game. That's another thing too, is you want to consider that you got to play a game that's like good for a controller, and not every game is. This game has like a real like Zelda. I forget which Zelda it is that has that 3D style.
Now I remember the game because I checked it out after he mentioned it.
I'm trying to play this by looking at it through.
Yeah, I can see it.
Camera.
It's got that cell shaded, graphics and a platformer kind of 3D platformer.
But it's really great on here. It runs really smoothly. It's a game that feels really good playing with a controller. It has this mechanism of like you can jump, but then like kind of dart yourself by hitting the trigger button. And so it's like a platformer that's like all about using that mechanic, like using that like darting mechanic.
Oh, so that's literally that's like Wind Waker with the stupid GameCube.
That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The GameCube controllers, you press them in and then you press them a little further and they click. And like, yeah, that was a pain in the neck to emulate. It was like impossible.
So as far as that's concerned, it's great. And, but where I think the Steam Deck really shines for me, and why I think this is like a product that like was like designed like specifically for me and like people like me, is that outside of the verified games, if you're already a Linux gamer and you're already like hacking things to work with Proton, then those games will also work for your Steam Deck. It just requires exactly what you would do on the desktop. So take Elder Scrolls Online, for example. That's one that is not verified. It's not recommended for the Steam Deck. It has no verification checkbox whatsoever. They don't say that it can't. They don't say that it doesn't work, but they don't say that it does. Whenever you play that game on any Linux desktop, you have to install it and using Proton, and then you have to give Proton a special command so that whenever the installation is installing, it can see your whole hard drive. So you're going to run into the exact same problems on the Steam Deck, and the way you get around that is there is an on-screen touchpad. This kind of dives into the problems with the desktop version. You can switch to desktop mode even on the handheld, and you get a full KDE desktop. It's just on your little 720 screen, and it has touch screen, but obviously KDE is not like optimized for touch, so it's really hard to navigate. You have this like trackpad on the right side, and that is like you can use that just like a mouse. Right. And so it's a little bit easy to navigate using that. It's way easier to use that than it is your finger. But the on-screen keyboard that's built into SteamOS is terrible. Like it's just god awful. And they recently did an update that made it better, because I know that the first day I had the Steam Deck, it was unusable.
Wow.
They've put in an update that makes it better, but it's
at least
still
that's
not
all
good.
software. At least they can fix that. That's not something that's always going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the touchscreen is crappy, and then there's another problem.
No, it's not like that. It's just the touchscreen's hard to use just because the KDE desktop is just a literal KDE
right.
desktop.
I understand that. Yeah.
But the on-screen keyboard is bad just because it's hard to get it to come up when it's supposed to.
Okay, I gotcha.
Whenever it does come up, it's like this thing where like the keyboard comes up and there's like one half of the QWERTY keyboard is controlled by this touchscreen and the other half is by this one. Have you seen that before?
Well, I've seen that on Android. Android, you can do that. You can split it in half and kind of use half and half.
Yeah.
Kind of situation.
Yeah. That's the way it works. And it is usable, but if you're having to do a lot of changes, like I know that installing Final Fantasy 14, that's another game that like can actually there's a caveat to that. Final Fantasy 14, this actually should be in the notes, but recently they did an update to the game that has broke it for Linux players. So I'm sorry, guys. And that was one of the
always freaking happens.
That was like one of the golden childs too. Like Final Fantasy 14 has worked great on Linux for a long time, and then they just broke it recently, earlier this month. So, but that's an example of a game that when it did work, you had to make a lot of changes to config files in order to get the game to run on Linux. You would have to make those same changes to the version of the game on your Steam Deck. And what I've found is, I use a USB-C like dongle that has an HDMI out and then USB, and I'll plug in mouse and keyboard to that and then run it to a monitor, and basically I'll use that to make whatever changes I would need to make. But literally any game that will run on Linux will run on the Steam Deck, even non-Steam games. So Albion Online, I can play that on the Steam Deck, even though it's not in Steam. Actually, Albion Online is in Steam.
But your version is not from Steam, right?
Right, yeah. I hate to keep giving caveats. I apologize. But Albion Online, they do a thing where, like, if you have a Steam account, you have to use that account for the game. Right. I've been playing Albion Online before it was available on Steam, and so instead of starting a new account, I just play the non-Steam version of the game. But
that makes sense.
They have a Linux installer. You don't even have to hack it to work on Linux. I just went to Albion Online's website in desktop mode. I downloaded their installer. I ran the installer. It installed it directly to my Steam Deck. And then whenever I launched the application, just like I would on my desktop, and it loads the same way. They recently added controller support just because of the Steam Deck. So Albion Online not only works, but is optimized to be played on the Steam Deck.
So they never had controller support before?
No.
Wow.
The same week I got the Steam Deck, they introduced the controller support, and they said in the article.
I did see a little flash on my Steam homepage about something to do with Albion having an update for the Steam Deck. I didn't read it, but I did see something. You
might have saw it in the show notes too, because the episode that we were going to record when I got sick, I had it in the show notes for that episode. Because that was prior to it being released. That was whenever they had just said, "Hey, this is coming out in a few days," and then it came out. And also Lutris, you can install Lutris on the Steam Deck, and then anything that'll run in Lutris will run. Now you just have to keep in mind that anything outside of Steam is it needs to have controller support, or it's going to be really hard to play.
Right,
but
unless
it will
mouse and keyboard with it.
Right. But then at that point, like, why are you even using a handheld device?
Exactly. That doesn't make sense.
So I think a good idea for our YouTube channel would be if I made some videos on how to install some of these games, because so I installed ESO. I tried to install Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy picked a terrible time to break Final Fantasy 14 for Linux for the very first time. Like, it has worked for years.
Unless this is the reason why they did that.
No,
Steam Deck, they just don't want to mention it because they don't want to.
It could be, but all right. So here's the thing: the new issue is that you have to link your Steam account to your Final Fantasy account.
Oh, okay.
And in order to do that, you have to load the quote unquote new launcher, which Linux users have been avoiding because what you used to do was install Final Fantasy 14, and then you would open a config file, and you would change the launcher so that it launches the old launcher instead of the new launcher.
They're getting rid of the old launcher.
Right. Now you have to use the new launcher. There are people on Proton DB that have like explained how they got it to work, but I've tried I can't get it to work. And most of the comments are people saying they couldn't. Yeah, the new launcher.
Okay,
yeah.
So some people have gotten it to work, so it's not totally impossible.
What people are doing to get it to work is they're installing the Windows version of Steam in Lutris, and then they're launching the launcher from that.
That's a lot. Yeah. I've done that before. That's a lot.
I tried it.
It's a lot.
I tried it. I went pretty far. I didn't go so far as to actually install the game, but I went far enough
didn't know that it wasn't going to work.
It wasn't going to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the comments are people like me too, saying like, "Hey, I tried your instructions and they didn't work." So I don't know. I feel like we'll get there, but it's going to take the community kind of getting around it and figuring it out. But the thing is I would think that if they made the change so that you're linking your Square account to your Steam account, and that seems like something they might do because they know people are getting these Steam Decks. But then at the same time, they would have noticed that they just broke it for everybody's Steam Deck. You know what I mean? So I don't actually think they're making any changes. I don't think it was cognizant of the Steam Deck at all. I think they were just planning to make this change.
Yeah, that could definitely be because Steam Deck. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Steam Deck is like a drop in the bucket right now at this point.
In the grand scheme of things,
yeah.
So you could still. This kind of brings us to the aspect of the Steam Deck that I've only tested once, and I tested it just before we went on the air, just so I could say that I tested it. So it needs more testing from me. But you can do the remote play where you stream a game from your desktop to the tablet, to the deck, and that would be a decent way to play Final Fantasy because I'm not going to be playing Final Fantasy on the go anyway because it requires an internet connection. So I would be fine just streaming that to another room in my house. If that works, I could live with that. Right now, I can't even get it to play on my Linux desktop, though. That's why I would have to have a Windows. I would have to have a Windows desktop just to do that. That just dawned on me. But I tried to stream a game just before the show. It was the Wrath of the Righteous Pathfinder game.
Oh, Pathfinder, right.
Yeah, which I emailed Owlcat asking if they were going to make because Pathfinder, the first game has a native Linux version, and then the new game doesn't. And so I was wondering if they were ever going to release. But I think that the non-Linux version of Wrath of the Righteous running on Proton runs better than the Linux version of Pathfinder.
Yet again, that seems to be the theme of this whole Proton thing.
I think that companies that used to be conscious of making a Linux version of their game are now just targeting Proton. And I've come to terms with that. I'm fine with that. I'm totally okay with that.
I feel like that the Linux games that are not built from the ground up Linux, that are just ported, are ported so poorly that you can get Proton to work way better than them. That is the whole thing. I think that's been going on for years with Linux games. Is they're not really Linux games. They're Linux ports.
Yeah.
So it's just not the same. It's just not the same.
There was even some that literally ran Wine and stuff. Like you just got a launcher that made you feel like you launched it on Linux.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So.
Yeah, I think that I don't know for sure because I never responded to my email, but I feel like they're one of those companies that they're just targeting Proton, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's just fine.
But the streaming feature didn't work. The game would load, and the funny thing is like using the controls on the Steam Deck would control the application on my desktop. I could move my characters, but on the screen on the Steam Deck, they were just sitting still. They weren't actually moving. So, yeah.
There's a little work. I've found that streaming from Linux to Linux is actually harder and more problematic than streaming from Windows to Linux. I
Yeah.
think they optimize for that because they know that's what people are going to want the streaming for. I mean, for the most part, I should say.
Yeah, no, I did that. I've done that before where I had a Windows PC in the house that would play games that I couldn't play on the Linux PC, so I would stream them from one to the other. Yeah, no, definitely. I've always thought it would be neat if you just had a Windows gaming PC that you just built and put in a closet like a server. And, and then that's
my gaming PC. Okay?
Yeah, and then you use another PC in your house to actually trick yourself into believing you're playing all these Windows games on Linux.
Hey, and if you do some internet wizardry, you can do it anywhere. It'd be like having Stadia.
Yeah. So that actually is one of our news items. So
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. So Microsoft has made a special version of Microsoft Edge just for the Steam Deck. You can actually get it in a flat pack. I don't know if that's the only way you can get it, but I know that it is available in a flat pack. And the reason why they've done this is because is in an effort to get the Xbox cloud gaming to work on the Steam Deck. Yeah, it's pretty cool,
dude. That's like, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I read this article. I didn't think about it either. That's another thing I want to test.
I was just about to say, like, wow, Microsoft really does heart Linux. And then you said that, and I'm like, oh, they just heart themselves.
No, it really is a new world, man. There's
now the old Microsoft, they wouldn't even have done that.
No, they would have done the opposite. Yeah, they would have done a Windows deck and
Windex. Don't get confused with Windex.
Yeah, the Windex. Yeah, so this is going to be. But here's my thing about this though: is like when I read this article, I was like, "Oh, that's really neat," and I didn't think about trying a streaming service on the deck, which is something I'm definitely going to try after the show. Because I still have the Amazon service. We're about to cancel it because everybody in my house is kind of tired of it now.
Yeah,
but I just wanted.
The thing about streaming services is you can cancel.
Right, we can cancel it. I really just wanted the controller. That's the only reason why I did it. But the I don't see why you need a special version of Edge. Like if you can do it in a Firefox browser on Arch, then why can't you do it on the Steam Deck? Like I don't see what the difference is.
I wonder if you can download the Flatpak to any Linux. Maybe it's not Linux. Oh, you know what it is? I bet you it's the controls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if it's optimized for the controller.
For the controls.
Yeah.
It has to be, because what else? It wouldn't be anything else. It wouldn't be there wouldn't be any other reason.
Yeah, this article's pretty short.
I'm curious to see if they actually have it where I can just look it up.
Oh, okay. I think you're absolutely right. So I am reading an article by The Verge. I had linked a couple articles in the show notes, but in this article by The Verge, the second to last paragraph, the Linux version of Microsoft's Edge now includes support for the Steam Deck controls and is available from the Discover Software Center, part of SteamOS.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, that's right, because SteamOS is basically now just using Flatpaks. They don't use any native because it's all
oh yeah,
the OS is an image.
Yeah,
that you can't add to.
Right. And my understanding is that whenever a new version of SteamOS comes out and you automatically install it, basically anything outside your home directory is lost.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's It's just like an Android phone where basically it downloads a whole image and then it swaps those images out.
Yeah.
And instead of deleting it or whatever, I don't know about the Steam Deck's case, but in Android's case, instead of deleting it, it just swaps them out with two separate boot partitions.
Yeah. No, that sounds right. That sounds exactly right. Well, yeah. So I tried games I've played on it so far. Just Blue Fire again is probably the best game for the Steam Deck that I've found so far. I wanted to talk about this game, Tacoma, and so I installed it on the Steam Deck basically just because I wanted to talk about it. Now on the Steam Deck, because of the show, I have I have Tacoma running, Blue Fire, and Elder Scrolls Online all
Hey,
in the background.
if it catches on fire, it'll be on camera.
We'll get that.
Get a new one.
We'll get that fan noise right here on the. This is a really good game, though. If you'll bear with me just for a moment, just to describe the game itself, not just specific to the Steam Deck. Have you ever heard of this game, Tacoma?
I have not.
So it's
I think you mentioned it. Otherwise, I haven't. I should say.
I don't know that I've mentioned it on the show, though. I think I might have mentioned it to you.
Maybe.
I hope I'm not talking about something I've already talked about before on the show, but it's now that you're saying that, I think I might have. But it's a game that is played through. So you end up on a space station. I'm like remembering myself say this now. So you're on a space station, and the crew is missing, and the whole game is played out by there's like the ship computer. It has like recorded all the motions and all the movements of all the crew, and so here it is running on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I'm not remembering this now, so I don't think I mentioned it.
So like
that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm like floating around on a space station right now. You know what I need to do to set up for the podcast is I can use this as like my demo computer. If I set up like another screen, like I'll get like a HDMI capture out of it or something. So
that's good.
You end up on the space station. All the crew is missing, but the ship's computer has recorded all the interactions of the crew. And it's not just recorded like the audio or video of it. It's like 3-dimensional. So like whenever you enter a room, it's like everything is paused, like time is paused, and you see all these like little like silhouettes of where the crew was standing at the moment the computer started recording. Right. And then the game is like a game of puzzles. There's no combat. Okay. You're just solving like puzzles. It's kind of like Portal, but there's not even a portal gun. It's like
right. But the concept is like is like Portal.
It reminds me of there was a game called Myst. I don't know if you ever played Myst, but it was like a game where you were solving puzzles out on this island. This kind of reminds me of that, where it's like you're just exploring the space station, and the goal of the game is to find out what happened to the crew and to just get further along and further into like all the areas of the space station. But the way you do that is by replaying this footage of the crew. And so if you like, just an example, like if you're trying to get like you're trying to find like a key that might be in a locker, and then you watch, you play through a video of the people in the locker room, and then you see the numbers that the person punched on his locker, during his conversation or whatever. And then that like gives you, okay, so those numbers are the combination to this lock. And so you do that to get into it. It's those kinds of puzzles, or like you're listening to a conversation and someone mentioned something that's a clue to something else, but you're also picking up the story of what happened to the people as you're playing through all this. It's a really interesting game. It's really unique in the way it's delivered, and it's really cool because it's a good. I play a lot of games like at night, like when I'm kind of unwinding from the day, and it's a really relaxing game. Like it's not like it's not like intense. Like I'm not like it's not like a real twitchy game where I'm like waiting for something to jump out around the corner. And it's just really cool, kind of learning the story of what happened to these people. And they have another game called it's called like Coming Home or Going Home or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard of that one.
Gone Home is what it's called, and it's
right.
I haven't played it yet. It came with, I bought like a bundle for $15. You can get both, or actually it looks like the price went up. I bought it on sale. Now you can get both for $31. Wow. But Gone Home looks like it's a similar type game, but you're walking around a house looking at different clues and finding out what happened to these people in this house just as you go through it. But that is another game. It has a Linux version of the game, so therefore it is one of the Steam Deck like verified. It'll work automatically. I tested it out just now, and it runs great on the Steam Deck. So cool. It's a good title for the Steam Deck if you're getting one. Steam Deck as a desktop. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about this.
So,
or maybe not.
Yeah, I don't want to disappoint you. So, it actually, crossed my mind that I could possibly just use the Steam Deck as a desktop. I actually even suggested to you, why don't we stream this episode from the Steam Deck? We should still try that sometime.
I was about to mention that before. We definitely need to try it.
We need to try it
just for kicks, at least.
Yeah, it's not. It is not terrible, but it's not the promise that that I hoped it to be. I won't even say Valve ever promised it could be, but I had hoped. True.
It was just like, this is a game console. It also has a desktop.
Yeah, I think it was Leo that said on Mintcast that like this literally could just be a $500 gaming PC, you know,
right?
Or it's not even $500, but it's like a $400 gaming PC. But the 720 is what is doing the work here. Like the fact that it's on 720p on the handheld. That's what's doing all the work. That's doing the heavy lifting, because whenever you try to play a game in 1080 in desktop mode, it runs really bad.
Right.
It runs really bad. You would have to drop the graphics and stuff like really low. I haven't tried that at all. By the way, every game I've been playing on the Steam Deck has been the same settings I would play on my desktop. I haven't changed anything.
Wow. That's impressive.
And I don't know if the Steam Deck is doing anything. Maybe the Steam Deck like has automatic setting changes, but I can't imagine. And
I don't think so.
Yeah, I can't.
Unless maybe that slider does something.
Yeah, but the slider. But see, my thing is like my settings for like Elder Scrolls Online is saved to my Steam account. I'm pretty sure.
Right. So you can't really.
Yeah, and Elder Scrolls has made no agreement with Valve. They've
right.
You know what I mean? So I don't see how Valve could change those settings.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
But I know that so that Elder Scrolls was the one I tried. So I put it in desktop mode. I installed Elder Scrolls. I got it to work on Proton. I tried it on the handheld device itself. It ran great. I had to set what controller layout, which I just said like an Xbox controller or something.
Right. Yep.
And then whenever I put it in desktop mode and I tried the exact same game, exact same settings, only thing has changed is the resolution, and it ran terribly. I set the resolution to a 720 resolution just to see how different it would be, and it ran perfectly smooth. It ran fine. Even on my full 1080 monitor, it just looked really pixelated because it's stretching the 720 image out to 1080. And it ran fine, but it just looked terrible. And so this is the dilemma you have, is as a desktop PC, the graphics card is just not capable of running full size windowed games. Now everything else was fine. I mean, using the web browser, using it as a desktop PC, perfectly fine. I actually think we probably could stream from it because we're not really like using a graphics card.
No,
like I actually think everything except for gaming works exactly the same as my desktop, but it's just running those games full screen. That is really what is doing the legwork, is the fact that all these are in 720. That's really what is doing all the work.
And I don't think that's a bad thing with the size of the screen. The size of the screen makes the whole world of difference. Mm-hmm. Because if they did a 15-inch screen, and not that they would, but I mean, saying if they did, it would look twice as worse because it's twice as big. So I mean, I'm not a I'm not a designer or anything, but I would assume that's how it would be.
Yeah, I'm no mathematician.
Yeah, mathematician. Yeah, so but whatever. Anyway,
no, you're absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. That's what it is. That's the trick. That's the smoke and mirrors, is the fact that it's on this. It's on. So in other words, screen.
Keep it at 720.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
desktop stuff.
I think the fact that it can go to desktop mode gives you so much more compatibility when it comes to installing non-Steam approved games. But that's what it's useful for. It's not actually useful for being a gaming desktop.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, maybe if I tried something less graphics intensive than Elder Scrolls, which Elder Scrolls is an older game. It's not like a brand new game, but like that Blue Fire game, it might actually run better than what Elder Scrolls did but it is a 3D game though. Mm-hmm. I think if you were doing like a Undertale or like some of the RPGs that are still like classic RPG looking,
Right.
they might be fine. Yeah, RuneScape for sure. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think you're going to be able to run it full screen is the problem. I've already mentioned the on-screen. I've already mentioned most of the stuff I had in my notes for the Steam Deck desktop version. But yeah, did you have anything I should test or anything you can think of?
Man, you hit pretty much everything I really wanted to know about. To be honest, I mean, yeah, it sounds like I would like one.
Yeah.
Like if I were to get one.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I've always kind of wanted the Switch, but the reason why I never bought the Switch is because the only game that I can't really get that I would want would be the newest Zelda game, which I can't remember the name.
Breath of the Wild. Is Breath of the Wild the newest one?
Wild. Yeah, that's the only game I'd want. I'm like, I'm not gonna pay whatever it is to get a Switch to play that game. But this, you can play almost any game, and like you showed, there are many games like Breath of the Wild out there that I could get with it. So I mean, I don't have the money now, but eventually, and if supply comes back, I would definitely consider getting one after hearing this. I kind of didn't really watch reviews a lot. I kind of followed Linus Tech Tips a little bit, but I didn't really go in depth in watching reviews about it because I wanted to see what your experience was first, because I know you're going to be like true about it and not,
Yeah, well, I it's exactly what I was hoping it would be. It's exactly what I expected it to be. But I think what's going to hurt the Steam Deck is that I don't know that everybody had the same expectations I did. So, and that's why, and that's why I said earlier, like this was the device that I feel like was like literally designed for me and people like me. I think if you're already a Linux gamer and you're already the type of person that you go beyond the normal installation, you work on getting things to work on Proton and under Lutris and that sort of thing, then I think this is a really cool device because basically all the work you've already put in there you're gonna benefit from that in this handheld device. But if this is like your first introduction to Linux gaming, and you thought you could just buy this and play anything in your Steam library, then you're going to be super disappointed, and so that's kind of my that's like my uneasiness of it, because I want to see it be successful. I think the Steam Deck doing good is only good for Linux gamers. I mean, I think we have to be rooting for this thing.
Definitely.
And it makes me kind of uneasy, kind of even the kind of hiccups and pain points that I had using it, like the on-screen keyboard being terrible, just not being able to run things in desktop mode.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that shouldn't be a problem at launch with a system like this.
Yeah.
Were problems. Not a lot of things, but a lot of little things, I should say.
I worry about the greater public perception. And I also got to say, I've not been watching reviews of the Steam Deck on YouTube other than Linux. As a matter of fact, whenever I looked up my review, I looked up Steam Deck Linux review because I wanted to see what other Linux users were saying about it. And so I don't know. Maybe the public. I got nothing to worry about, and the public perception from Linus and from everybody else is super hyped and super happy about it. But I just have a feeling that if you're not already a Linux gamer, I would be worried that you would be running into you would be bumping into some things. Yeah,
I mean, for a non-Linux gamer and just a handheld console gamer,
this is Nick.
I don't think they're going to be running into the whole desktop scenario. Any issue with the desktop, I would assume that they're just not going to even see, because they're not going to try that. They're just going to go for the gaming stuff. So whatever problems you had with the Steam Deck UI part of it is what they're going to be seeing, like the game compatibility for one. And I mean, I don't know. I would hope that someone that bought a Steam Deck would realize that, I need to do a little research into this before I just buy it and hope all my games work. But I don't know that people do that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's in Steam now, even if you're in the non-Steam Deck Steam. Actually, I want to make sure this is true before I say it. if I open Steam right now and I look at a game, I'm looking at the store. I'm just clicking on a random game. Does it say? It actually doesn't. I don't see it anywhere.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I see it on the Steam Deck, but I'm just clicking on. I just clicked on some. This game's called Project Meta. I have no idea what this is.
Facebook.
It's an early access game. It's VR only, apparently. And nowhere on here does it say that it would be Steam Deck verified or not. Let me click on. Let me click on a different game. Maybe there's. If I click on something more popular, maybe it will. Because I would think that if you were about to buy this, you should look at your library and see if it's Steam Deck verified. All right, so now I'm looking at Vermintide, Warhammer Vermintide, which is a very popular game, and I don't see it. If it's on here, it's not like prominent.
Wow.
But if you were looking at this game on the Steam Deck, it would be prominent. It would be like right there on the icon, really large.
They just haven't updated the Steam UI for the desktop yet.
Yeah,
I think maybe even Windows has it. Maybe Windows has this already, and Linux just hasn't got the update yet.
I don't know.
Because I've seen some stuff on that Windows has that Linux doesn't have. Not that.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't have it at all. Maybe they just exclude it from the Linux version, but I've seen a couple things here and there where it's not exactly the same.
Well, I'll tell you what the Steam Deck does not have, and this is our last news item. Destiny 2 is not allowed on the Steam Deck. Budgie even went so far as to saying that you could get banned for trying to get it to run on the Steam Deck. Let's see. I have a link in the show notes to Budgie's actual help page. And under Steam Deck and Destiny 2, Destiny 2 is not supported for play on the Steam Deck or on any system utilizing Steam Play's Proton unless Windows is installed and running. And then why the hell would you be running Proton on Windows?
Maybe they don't even understand what this is yet.
Yeah. Players who attempt to launch Destiny 2 on the Steam Deck through SteamOS or Proton will be unable to enter the game and will be returned to their game library after a short time. Players who are not accessing Destiny 2 through Windows and attempt to bypass the SteamOS Proton incompatibility will be met with a game ban. Wow. Harsh.
I feel like in their offices, they're like putting up signs that have like Proton on one end.
Yeah.
And then equals, and then like this hacker guy with the hood and all that. And it's like,
they got pictures of Gabe Newell and Linus Torvald and they just throw darts at them.
Those fools.
Yeah, this like
I thought Destiny 2 had a Linux version, like an actual Linux version.
Oh, I don't know. I know that I've played Destiny 2.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I always thought they had a Linux version.
I'm about to look this up. I've played Destiny 2 on Linux before, so Budgie, come after me. Come after me, Budgie. I played it on, but I played it on Stadia. I played Stadia in my browser on Linux.
That's what they were talking about. That's where I heard it. They said that it has to be a Linux native because it runs on Stadia.
Yeah, Stadia uses Linux for its gaming server farm or whatever.
Unless they lied.
Yeah, really.
Which they can do because they're freaking Google.
Oh, come on.
Oh man,
they wouldn't be evil. Come on, this is the rule number one. Don't be evil.
Whoever said evil?
Let's see. I just looked up Destiny 2 Linux just to see if I could see anything. There's a Proton DB article on it. Interesting. But it's borked.
Oh yeah, it's like, they just put that up there so people don't do it so they don't get banned.
Yeah. If you read through the comments here, it's like, shh, it really works. No, I played it on Stadia. Is the only time I've ever played it. That's the only time I've ever played any of the Destiny games. Right. And it was mostly just because I wanted to try out Stadia for the podcast. And I remember it was all right. I didn't hate it. I don't really like those like hub style like they're like almost an MMO, but not really, like kind of thing. Like,
oh, so this isn't a new thing. This has been from okay. So I'm reading an article on Steam, their news or not their forum,
mm-hmm.
And it's from 2020, April 23rd, 2020, and a moderator said to one of the guys asking about this for Destiny 2 on Linux, and it says at this time Destiny 2 only works with Windows. Using an emulator or non-Windows setup to get it to work may see your account banned.
So, I guess like I don't know. I obviously don't like this. I could play devil's advocate. I could the only devil's advocate somewhat justifiable, like if I'm really stretching here to find some justification, is that they're worried that if they allow their games to be if they allow this to be circumvented,
Right.
then they would have to allow for certain they would have to allow for certain compatibility layers, or you actually, I'm stealing this from you. You mentioned this a little bit before we started recording. They're probably worried that if they allow that, they won't be able to detect if someone is using a similar mechanism to actually
like an
cheat.
aimbot per se.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, in all honesty,
That's the only thing I can
that's
see.
the only thing. Yeah. Otherwise, like, it's just vindictive.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Steam Deck. We're gonna stop you in your tracks.
Right. Yeah. And I can't imagine that they would just be like that cartoonishly. Like,
no, I know exactly. It's like no. Follow the money trail, and we'll somehow figure this out.
Because like I remember, I think I told this story before, but one time I was doing something in World of Warcraft that wasn't malicious, but I was using something that was like spoofing my network traffic, and it was just like an automatic, like they didn't want to hear my reason for using this. They didn't want. There was no like. It was just like no, that you're out.
And
you're out, buddy.
Of you in their office, then it equals the hacker guy. And they said this guy is no longer allowed.
Yeah, and I was just trying to. I guess it actually probably was against terms of service, but I was just trying to avoid the long queue lines.
The grinds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, it was the long queue line thing. Like it was whenever one of the expansions first came out, and you would have to wait forever to log in, and so I basically had it set up so that I could log in from home and then wait on the queue while I was still working, or I could log in from work and then wait on the queue while I was still working. And then when my character actually logged in, I had to like make it appear that I was an actual person playing the game. And
oh yeah, that'll get you banned.
Yeah, and whenever they saw that is whenever I got banned.
Captcha pops up.
Yeah,
program doesn't know what to do.
but like I don't know, like everybody they could just, it would be different if they just said, hey, EAC doesn't work and we don't know when we're going to get around to fixing it to work.
Put a big old question mark on it, like we'll get to this eventually, but we don't know when. No, it's just banned.
Yeah, that's so wild.
Okay, so if the Steam Deck does succeed and Steam Deck 2 comes out and that really goes off, they'll change their mind. Destiny 3, whatever's out at that point, they'll change their mind because they don't want to lose the revenue,
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. I hope that the Steam Deck is successful. I think it only makes things better for everybody on Linux gaming.
Oh yeah, forget the if part. I mean when the Steam Deck succeeds.
Yeah. I have one more game that I wanted to talk about, and it comes from it's a follow-up from the last episode. And then I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here. But you remember last episode I talked about the Next Fest.
Yeah, right.
That was like a weekend festival. I tried a few games, but none of them were really noteworty except for one. Like the games I tried, everything installed and ran on Linux. It was the same weekend that I had I had gotten the controller, the Amazon Luna controller.
Right.
Or no, I hadn't just gotten it, but for whatever reason, I was playing with it a lot that weekend. But a lot of the games that I installed from the Next Fest worked, but they didn't work with the controller, so I didn't spend a lot of time in them. But there was one game that I really thought stood out to me as being a really creative game. I really hope that it is successful when it releases. I'm definitely going to pick it up, and it was really up my alley in a big way. But it's called Winter Ember. It kind of seems like it should be Winter's Ember, but it's just Winter Ember. It's by Sky Machine Studios, and it is a like sneaking mission, like stealth game.
Oh, okay.
So it's like Splinter Cell or Metal Gear Solid. It really feels like early, like the first Metal Gear Solid game. But it's isometric, so it's not like where you can follow third person, Solid Snake moving through this world. It's isometric, and it's fantasy. It's not like future sci-fi espionage. You're like a rogue like character, and you are like sort of like an assassin. Like there was a book series I read one time, but I can't remember the name, so scratch that. You're like you sneak in the night and assassinate some like king or prince or something, and then sneak back out.
Right.
It's that type of thing. The way the game works is you have all the mechanisms of like crouching and hiding and hiding in the shadows. You can your line of sight is based on the character's line of sight. So there's kind of like a fog of war type thing. So like if you think of games that have fog of war, usually like your map is black, and you can't see beyond that until you've explored it one time, and then you can see it.
Yep.
This kind of uses a mechanism like that, but your fog of war is anything outside your main character's vision. So if you're crouching behind something, you can only see what the character can see.
Oh, okay.
But then if you move around
that way.
Yeah, so like if you move around, then you might move enough that you see that there's a guard right there, and then you got to move back in, that kind of thing. And it's one of those like sitting and waiting games where it's like a guard has like a normal pace that he does, and then he stands here and he goes, "Oh, it's cold tonight," and you're waiting for the moment that you can sneak by him real fast. It's I love those types of games. Recently I played the one, A Plague's Tale. I talked about that in the last episode, I think, but it's that same type of sneaking style game. But the fact that it's isometric and fantasy is what makes it feel so different than these other games. Rarely is one of those types of games set in a fantasy setting, and rarely in fantasy games do I like playing a rogue because, well, I don't know why it is. I've just never been a fan of the rogue type character. I've never played a rogue in WoW. I don't usually play that type of character in Elder Scrolls. Even in like Dungeons and Dragons and games like that, I never play like that style character. And when it comes to fantasy, I'm normally like, I want a big ass shield, a big ass sword, and like
chop them up.
Right. I want you to hit me. But this game was really neat, and the link it made where it made me feel like I was playing some sort of Metal Gear Solid style game. It really sparked like what a rogue like really is in these types of stories, and I really liked that. It made me interested in that type of character when I'm not normally. So,
and I'm like the total opposite. I'm always a rogue.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
I'm always like the one in the shadows, just kind of like waiting for my opportunity.
Yeah. So you would like this game, I think. I played. So you could download the demo, and you had like a mission to go on, and it's pretty long. I didn't actually get to the end of it. I feel like I was pretty close to the end, but I couldn't find. There's one part where I was supposed to blow up this gate, and I never could figure out where I was supposed to find the like explosive or whatever I was supposed to use to blow it up. And I felt like I had explored everything I could possibly explore.
Right.
But yeah, it's that kind of game. So I was like trying to sneak past all these guards and stuff, and then find whatever like tools and items I needed to fulfill the mission.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really cool game. It had like a weird intro. So like, it had like an anime style kind of cartoon intro that started the game out, and it felt super. I hope that they blend it better whenever the final game comes out, but it felt super like jarringly different than the actual gameplay. Yeah, the like
The sensor
cartoon.
looks either amazing or really bad, and then the game looks either really good or really bad compared to it.
Yeah, I think this is a case where, like, to me, the intro looked really bad, and then the
game looked better.
The game looked really good. Yeah,
Right.
and I'm hoping that it's just not the
Like
final
the Resident
product.
Evil cutscene, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, this is
Yeah.
amazing. And then,
God. I had not played Resident Evil 0 since I was a kid, and I recently played it. Dude, that game is awful. The cutscenes are terrible. In that game. But yeah, so I'm rooting for Winter Ember. When it actually comes out, I'll definitely buy it. And
I'll check that one out. Oh, it sounds pretty cool.
It's unfortunately they don't have the demo that was available for the next fest. It's not available unless maybe if the next, they do those kind of festivals all the time. Maybe whenever the next one happens, it'll be available again. But all right,
spring sale should be coming up soon. So
yeah,
unless it already happened, I could have missed it.
No, I don't think so. I think the last big thing was that. All right. Well, I guess that's the end of the show. Unless you got something you want to add in.
Nope, I haven't been doing much gaming wise recently, so that's about it.
Sounds good. I think this was a good one. Thank you for listening. This episode was like a little more scattered compared to our previous ones. Maybe that's a good thing. If you like this style, let us know in the comments. But otherwise, we'll be back to our normal thing 2 weeks from now when we do the next episode. And anyway, we'll see you then. Thanks. Peace.
See ya.